Welcome to CareerView. This is a podcast where we ask questions students want to know when it comes to pursuing a career path. I'm your host, Sawle, and each episode I will ask questions on behalf of students across the country from secondary schools and universities what they want to know when it comes to pursuing their dream job. For today's episode, we'll be asking our top questions that have been submitted by students on our CareerView website who are aspiring to become school teachers. Now, to answer these questions, I'm joined by 26-year-old secondary school teacher Edward Sawle, who specialises in teaching geography and environmental science. Edward is currently teaching at the very prestigious Iona Presentation College, and in a very short span of time has gained experience teaching for the Department of Education, and he has a lot of great insights. So, let's begin.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're back. Welcome to the show, Edward. It is so great to have you here. Absolute pleasure. Firstly, how's everything going?
Mate, I'm very well. Thank you, Neri, for allowing me to speak today. But no, I'm going really well. Life's busy at the moment, but for me, busy's good. So
Busy is good indeed. Now, Edward, I'll be asking you the top questions requested by students when it comes to pursuing a career path of a teacher. But before we do that, can you first tell me, what do you like as a teacher in the classroom environment? And also expanding on that, what makes you unique in this role?
I think I'm incredibly lucky that I started teaching quite young. So for me, I feel my kind of uniqueness is I'm still quite familiar with the young kids at the moment. So I try to bring a lot of energy. As you probably know me from a personal level, I like to be quirky. I like to be fun, humorous. So I like to kind of bring a high energy to the classroom as much as I can. Trying to make the kids feel as comfortable as possible because, I feel like school should be an enjoyable time and it should be a safe environment. So trying to be that presence in the classroom away from maybe the old stereotypes of what some people that didn't enjoy school kind of had, try and be the opposite.
Yeah, look, I really admire that because I can imagine that it would also be quite demanding on you, especially on top of all your other teaching activities. How do you feel or have seen students react when you create this kind of environment?
Yeah, I feel like it just makes students feel comfortable if they know that they can have a laugh and be themselves. And I feel like myself, not taking myself too seriously, it means that the kids, I feel like when they feel safe, when they feel confident, that's where some real learning begins.
That's fantastic. And jumping into our questions for today, the first one that we have is, what does a normal day look like for you?
Mate, a day is never the same. It's different every day. So the normal kind of day will be getting in before school and organising yourself, planning your lessons and what that looks like for the day. Obviously, teaching is the main part of the day. You might get between 4 or 5 periods out of a 6 or 7 period day. And with that, you might get 1 or 2 breaks, which is great. That makes you catch up on emails to parents, kind of communicating with either your year level, I guess they're supervisors, lost for the word, or then any other kind of your head of department and things like that. You might get a duty during the day, and then I try and involve myself with extracurricular activities. So on a Tuesday, Thursday, I'm taking the footy team, or sticking by and helping out with the choir or something like that. So it's different every day, which is the really exciting thing that nothing's the same.
It's exciting, but at the same time seems very full on. And it seems like you're doing a lot of different things and your mind is split 10 different ways. And this kind of leads into the second question. Do you find the work enjoyable? I mean, there's a lot of different things. What is enjoyable to you? And maybe there's some things that are not as well. Yeah,
well, like I said before, in my experience, I really enjoyed school. And what I feel like my role is to encourage students that come to school that it is an enjoyable place. So trying to get involved in as many aspects as possible to create that feeling that coming to school, it's going to be great because we're in Mr. Sawle's class period 2 or something like that. So that's kind of what I try and encourage, and I love my job. I absolutely love it. There are some days which are harder than others where things might get busy or piled up, but I try and make the environment as best you can be. And for some people, and I know out of experience that some people don't enjoy school and things like that, but I feel like school's got so much to offer, not only students, but as a teacher, I feel like it's my vocation to bring these students in and make sure that they are enjoying what they're doing.
And how do you create that environment? I mean, that's something you keep touching upon, creating this fun, engaging environment. What do you do in that process to create that atmosphere within your classroom?
It's just knowing that every student is different, and just acknowledging that people have different values, they're engaged in different topics, they learn in different ways. Sometimes I feel like those students who are the wallflowers or the ones that don't necessarily click straight away with school, it's making sure that you pick those ones up and ensure that they are enjoying it just as much as others. And that's being kind of differentiating your lessons, the way that you communicate, the way that you build rapport with them. You're making sure that each individual is catered for and acknowledged and I guess cared for.
Absolutely. And very interesting insights from yourself. Next question that we have is, what pathway did you choose to become a teacher, and what was the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, so teaching was not on the menu for me for quite a few years after I left school. I wanted to do a variety of different things. I looked at different courses at uni, did a year of sports science and marine science, and didn't really find my way. But I was working part-time in a boarding school where I really enjoyed, and it didn't feel like work, but going into a boarding school community where I was facilitating tutoring and pastoral care. And I kind of thought from there, this is something that I want to do. This doesn't feel like work. I enjoy being a part of this kind of community. So I pretty much finished an undergrad in marine science and geography. And I try to just finish that as soon as possible so I could do a master's in teaching. And that took another 2 years postgrad, where I was able to pretty much do both theory and prac within 2 years, and come out of it with now an undergrad and a master's degree in education.
I mean, if we go back to high school, when you finished high school and to the point where you realised, hey, I want to become a teacher, what age was that for you, and when did that really kick in?
That probably didn't kick in until I was about 22. So like I said, I think I took a year off in the middle there. I tried all different avenues, looking at my friends who were doing uni. Okay, well, I've got to do uni. What could I do? Oh, I love sport. I'll do sports science. No, I don't really like it. Oh, I'll try marine science because I love the ocean. I can't see myself being a marine scientist, but I still like the course. And then I was just like, well, I can so see myself being a teacher. I love to be that kind of caretaker or a role model for younger students. So what's the best way that I can get there? And that was to finish my undergrad and then do a postgrad.
Fantastic. And it's worked out pretty well for yourself, I think. Not knowing sometimes the first pathway of becoming a teacher and trying different things out and then eventually getting there also has its merits and its benefits there. Edward, next question that we have from students is, what skills are important to become a good and if not great teacher, in your opinion?
I think you have to be patient, and I think you just have to be understanding about what kids are now going through in this day and age. I think you have to be passionate about providing the best opportunity for students. I feel like you have to have that kind of confidence with students that are teenage years and things like that. And I feel like to be a really good teacher, you do have to have a good passion for teaching the younger generation.
How did you develop that during your kind of teaching career and period of studying and being a student? Or does that just came naturally to yourself?
A little bit of both. Like I said, I worked in boarding communities from when I was about 19 years old. And at the time it was not on my priority list, nor did I think I had strength in those areas. But I think having the experience of slowly building relationships with, the youth and being able to see what effect that you have on them. And it is both incredibly fulfilling at the same time. And towards, after maybe 6 months to a year where strong connections were made, I was actually feeling the effect of what just a simple time that I spent with some of these students and what that meant to them.
Really interesting. Edward, next question that we have, if you weren't a teacher, what career would you consider?
Yeah, and I think some of the topics that we've discussed already, like and what I'm probably communicating here is I feel like I'm quite a holistic teacher, and that's got a real passion for pastoral care, and I feel like that's probably maybe a strong set of mine as a teacher. So talking about some of the skills that what a good teacher might have, I feel like I'm kind of weighing more on the pastoral care side. So I think for me, potentially working in other boarding school environments, or more or less being a kind of wellness ambassador for students who might be, or even the youth that might be coming up through some difficult circumstances. I feel like that is something that I'm incredibly passionate about and what I've developed as a teacher. I really feel that we kind of need to ensure equality for all young people around Australia. So potentially a role in looking at the well-being of youth in some disadvantaged areas is somewhere that I could potentially see myself outside of education.
Would you say your skill set is very transferable into all these areas that you may be passionate outside the title of a teacher?
Definitely. Well, I feel like just the skill set that I have now learnt, I feel that I can different from when I was 18 or 19, that sometimes going into a room full of between 12 and 16-year-olds might frighten the absolute hell out of me. But now I feel like I've got that, the skills in being able to be a good presence, to be approachable, to have a good caring nature could definitely be transferable to a whole lot of other areas outside of just kind of school-based learning.
Absolutely. Now, next question that we have from students is that they want to know, was the study difficult during your time in terms of becoming a teacher, and all the assignments, the exams? How was that? How intense was that? And was that difficult, and was it manageable? Did you find any major challenges? What are your thoughts on the whole study aspect?
With my masters, it was sometimes a little bit difficult when you weren't on prac and you're feeling a little bit tied down with assignments and things like that, where you felt like you just wanted to be in a classroom. And that's where you got, and in conversation with other students, you got your most out of being on prac, being in a classroom, being with the students, being able to teach and things like that. So when you were kind of completing assignments, that was sometimes just a little bit of the more difficult side, because you felt like you were learning more while you were in the classroom. But I reflect on some of those assignments where you would create programs for, say, like a year 8 science program all the way for a whole term. And when you're kind of doing that, it's like, well, no, this sounds a bit pointless. This feels a bit pointless. When I go to a school, there'll be a program there for me to use. But I've pretty much been writing programs and using those skills that we learn in kind of theory-based classrooms, that now it's something that I kind of do on the side and what's expected when you're a part of a school. There's
so many degrees actually where you think that the course work or the theoretical work or the assignment work that you're doing is so pointless. But here you are saying in the theoretical side of things and doing the assignments has value, and you do apply it extensively right now in the job that you have today.
100%. Like there was, and even just the creation of, there's one thing that, when you're studying, especially teaching, there's, chat amongst students. Oh, we've got to write so many lesson plans and we've got to write programs, and there's so much kind of theory behind it. And you don't realize that kind of doing those skills and creating those programs and lesson plans now makes the day-to-day life of being a teacher that much easier.
Very interesting. Next question that we have, Edward, and this is one of the most popular questions that came up on our survey. The question is, does your job pay well? And this is a very sensitive question, but maybe you can give in terms of perspective for yourself. Does it pay well for the lifestyle you live, and does it pay well for the requirements that you need? And maybe you can share some insights on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me as as a kind of young adventurer, I love my travel. It is probably one of the biggest pull factors for me to do teaching was the amount of holidays. I grew up with parents who were teachers, and my mum used to be a flight attendant, so we travelled as much as we could. And the beauty about being a teacher, and is something that all my friends are jealous of, is we get the holidays each year. So pretty much every 10 weeks, we kind of talk about it as FIFO, 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And the beauty of that is that when I'm on holiday, I'm planning to go to Austria at the end of the year for 6 weeks. I'm going to Bali in 5 weeks. And while I'm over there, I'm getting paid. So, and in addition to that, with teaching, you pretty much get a pay rise every year. For every year that you work, you go up a stage. So as a graduate, you are on a base rate of about, I think it's about, am I allowed to talk about pay? Is that right?
100%.
Right,
I think people want to know. You know, really get into the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Real honesty for someone who's done it. What is the graduate base pay like? How does it kind of progress from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's around about 80K, depending on whether you're in a department, if they're Catholic ed school, or if you're at a private school. So obviously private schools is where there is more money, but obviously there's a lot more expectation, to meet standards and achievement for the school in terms of academic results, plus extracurricular of coaching sport, doing extracurricular roles. So about a graduate on average is about 80K, which for graduate jobs, for a variety of different avenues and careers, it's pretty good.
Right, and that's probably the base or an average, or does that fluctuates quite a bit?
Yeah, so I think if you're going to the Department of Ed, it's between about 75 and 80. But yeah, it's about, I wish I had, it's really easy to find out. But from there, the beauty of it is that you probably get an extra $2,000 a year every year as you go up in stages. And probably if I've got students out there, the old teachers that are at your school at the moment, they are probably on over 100K. Because if you kind of do your accreditation to get to a level 5 teacher, which what you'll do is you'll do a couple of professional development courses. Not too hard to obtain. It just takes you a few years of experience before you're gifted the opportunity to do that. And if you're a level 5 teacher, then you're over 100,000. What am I talking about? 100K. Yeah.
100K. And bottom line, what you're saying is that as a teacher, you're not only just progressing, gradually over the years, you're learning, you're doing these programs, you're building new skills, and you're living fairly comfortably. And right now, would you say for yourself, the lifestyle you live, you do a lot of travel, you're pretty happy as a teacher with the pay that you have and kind of progressing forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm incredibly happy, and it's one thing that and I'd love to share it, is that you don't do it for the money, but at the same time, I'm living incredibly comfortably. Like my well-being is really high. And that is because not only am I getting by, I live with comfortably in my house, I pay my bills, I can buy the things that I want. I'm earning some savings for future purchases, like a house deposit, a new car, things like that. There is a substantial amount of money that keeps me happy, but then also I've got time off through the year. So if you use on average a 6-week summer plus another 6 weeks that is on each school holiday term, you've got 12 weeks off for the year. So you only work 40 weeks out of the 52, and you're still earning a really good salary.
And this is a question that gets, it's very sensitive, what should be said and what information can be revealed, but it's good to be open and honest, and someone who's just entered and is fairly young into the industry. And I know this will have a lot of value for aspiring teachers who not only are passionate about teaching, but also wanting to live comfortably and pursuing other areas such as, like yourself, travel, saving up for a house, these important things, which is all part of our life. Coming to our next question, did you have a backup plan?
No, there wasn't. When I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and that was when I found comfort in knowing that I was going to be a teacher, I didn't think I needed one. I was really kind of anxious and nervous and stressed when, like I said, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do while I was at uni and I was trying all these different courses. I felt that when I finally made that decision to study teaching, it was like I didn't even think of a backup plan, because I was like, well, this is what I kind of want to do. This is what I enjoy doing. So I don't really needed a backup plan.
That's fair enough. And I think right now as a teacher, you have a skill set where you can probably look at other options, but it's probably formed a good base, in your opinion.
Absolutely. And in chat with some of the deputy principals and people in kind of high places at the school that I'm currently at, there is ways which you can not only build yourself up as a teacher in the classroom. There are other avenues in the school, such as pastoral care leaders, such as looking at kind of the way in which the curriculum is catered at your students. There's a whole variety of different roles inside of a school that not only are in the classroom, but it's also outside of it too.
Really interesting. Our very last question that we have for yourself, Edward, is do you find the job rewarding, and where really do you derive a lot of meaning and value and kind of just keeps you inspired and going most days?
Yeah, I find the job incredibly rewarding. Just from a learning side of things, like from the smallest things of marking a test and having a student who is really struggling, and there's a question that you might have gone over 100 times, and they do what you told them, or they're actually learning. There's sometimes I'll sit at home and it might be late at night and I'm marking an essay or a test, and I'm smiling to myself because I'm like, you bloody ripper. Good job. That's amazing. That makes me feel so happy that I'm teaching these young people and they are learning. And then it's also rewarding being in a classroom where you're seeing, and I've started a new school this year, so I've been kind of the new teacher in the school, and now having about a term and a half, seeing some of those wallflowers become comfortable in your presence, having a joke with them, having a laugh, going from walking past them in the outside during lunch and them saying hello, them going out of their way to tell you about what they did on the weekend or what achievement they did in sport, and feeling comfortable in your presence. It just feels so incredibly rewarding that you are doing your job right, and that is purely and it's just being selfless in what you can do to these young students.
Very inspiring. And once again, coming back to yourself, who's only been in the industry or being a teacher for not that long, and yet you've had such incredible experiences, and it's a pleasure to listen to. So Edward, once again, a big thank you. That wraps up our episode for today. For our listeners who have more questions for Edward that did not feature on our list today and would like to connect with him, just visit our website, careerview.com.au. This is where you'll find Edward's profile, and you can email him with more questions and more specifics that you might have. And by all means, he's going to be willing to answer.
Please do. Yeah, I would love to hear them.
Absolutely. So, and with every episode, please don't forget to submit your questions you want to know for any profession for that matter. Edward, just want to say a big thank you again, and just want to ask you finally, is there any words of advice, anything that you would like to share for any aspiring students who want to become a teacher one day?
I think a really good idea that I could share is send an email, try and get in contact with a teacher that really inspired you. It's kind of what made me really engage in that process of being a teacher was thinking about all the memories that I had at school and what teachers really had an effect on me, and get in touch with them and see what they have to say, because I'm sure that those teachers that made a really strong impact on you, they will give you so much encouragement to go and put yourself in a kind of educational realm, because I feel like it's a really special, unique and incredibly fulfilling job.
Edward, thank you so much, and thank you to all our listeners here today, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Henry.